My name is Heather Brooks. I am Peer Programme Coordinator, and I'm joined today by the programme leads and colleagues, Thibaut, Davide, Julie, Mariangela, Arthur, as well as General Covenant of Mayors expert, Eugenio. We're delighted that you're joining us today for this Covenant of Mayors Peer Programme info session. I'll be handing over to these colleagues so you can hear directly from them about what each programme has to offer. But a few housekeeping rules before we get started. First of all, I just ask you to mute yourself if you're not talking. Of course, I'll ask you to unmute yourself when we come to the end for questions and answers. But then also just to say a note that we will be recording this session. I'll ask Eugenia to record. We'll be sharing this along with the presentation with you and with the rest of the Covenant community for information after today. So we'll start with a brief introduction to the peer programme overall, and then we'll go into each programme with an overview before opening out to questions. So I'll ask you then just to make a note down of any questions that you have as we go through each of the programme presentations, and we'll come to those when we have Q&A later on. So starting off with an introduction, we're launching 4 tailored peer learning programmes to respond to your needs with a deadline of Friday the 25th of March. So in a nutshell, the twinning programme is zoomed in on specific best practices on mitigation, adaptation and energy poverty. We've got an expert mission, and this is kind of zoomed out on overall vision or long-term strategy and good practices. We've got a peer review programme, and this is focused on tailored review of CCAPs by experts in the field. We've got a technical assistance programme, and this is aimed at small municipalities focused on preparation of selected projects as part of their CCAP. So we'll walk through the specifics of each of these programmes in a moment, but first I'd just like to give you some general information about the programme. So who can apply? Municipalities can apply to any of the 4 programmes, so that's twinning, expert mission, peer review or technical assistance, and all Covenant of Mayors signatories at any stage in their mitigation adaptation journey are welcome to join and apply. All Covenant of Mayors signatories from the Horizon 2020 associated countries, except those covered by another regional covenant, are welcome to join. So, for example, this includes Covenant of Mayors East and Covenant of Mayors Western Balkans and Turkey. I'll provide a link with some further information for that. And for these, you would need to see if there is a regional programme for you that you could apply to. UK signatories are invited to participate and apply. However, in case of physical travel, unfortunately, their costs won't be reimbursed. Now, all must be signature to either the 2030 or 2050 commitments before the start of the peer learning programme. That means, however, that you could put forward a commitment to commit to these 2030, 2050. You don't have to already be signed up to these right now, just that you would have to be signed up to these before the programme starts. Now, coordinators and supporters can apply to the expert mission for coordinators and supporters and to the peer review programme. Again, all Covenant of Mayors territorial coordinators and supporters from European Union member states and EFTA countries can apply. And again, non-Covenant of Mayors coordinators and supporters can apply on the condition that they would then commit before the end of May 2022, i.e. before the peer programme starts. Now, in order to ensure that participants can gain the most and ensure a successful journey through the peer learning programme, all participants are required to have at least level B1 command of English, and we do ask you to apply in English, please. Programmes that require travel will be reimbursed up to a certain amount. So there's a bit of further information there. So for twinning, both partners travel once and receive reimbursement of up to €750 for travel and €650 for hosting. Then for the expert mission for cities, learner cities travel and receive up to €750 for travel, while expert cities receive up to €650 for hosting. The peer review and technical assistance programmes are held entirely online. And then just a note to say for the expert mission for coordinators and supporters, participants selected as mentors will receive compensation for their expertise. Now, there are general selection criteria available online for you to review. I've popped a link there in the presentation. But the most important thing to keep in mind is really to include in your application form clear proposed themes and objectives. Just be as clear and concise in your application form as possible. that will help us in terms of matching you. Now, there are also program-specific selection criteria, but again, you can look at that link and delve into each of those. So I'll hand over now to Thibault, who is a lead on the twinning program, as we provide a brief explanation of each of the programs. And then, as I say, we'll come to questions and answers once we've been through each of those programs. So do note down any questions that you have. All right, I'll hand over to Thibault.
Thanks, Heather. Good afternoon, everyone. So I will briefly talk about the twinning program and what could you actually expect from this program. So we aim at involving 2030 and or 2050 signatories working on either mitigation, adaptation, or energy poverty actions. And what we actually want to provide with the twinning program is a space to connect between two cities with similar challenges and interests. And we will also consider the size of the population and the geographical location in order to match as best as possible. And as Heather actually said, we will, so within each pair, both cities will travel and host once. And so you see a timeline of the program. So we'll have first preparatory meeting online, then a twinning visit physically if the situation allows, and then a capitalization session online again. We will involve up to 9 pairs, so meaning 18 signatories. And we will also would like to select as part of the policy support facility up to 8 pairs specifically on the topic of adaptation. In terms of criteria, you will see in the application form, we would like actually to have your main topic of interests. So what would be your learning needs, either from mitigation, adaptation, or energy poverty, and what type of expertise actually you could provide within this program, and based on the learning needs and the expertise you have, we'll try to match as best as possible the different cities that will apply. And then I inserted some examples from the first round in the next slide, please. So some pictures and some example of the pairs that ran from for the first phase. So we'd add, for example, the pair with Ponferrada and Setúbal, and they actually exchange a lot on measures in public lighting in public buildings, but not only waste management system as well. And this pair are actually quite successful because they did not exchange as part of this program, but they actually, well, they were willing to exchange further on a voluntary basis. So that was actually a good good case I wanted to put forward. And so, as I said, we actually would like to address and identify good learning needs on your side. So try to be as accurate as possible, and trying to explain why actually you were looking for support in this, and then what type of expertise in which topic you actually can bring some knowledge and some good practices. And based on that, we'll make sure to connect you with the best city we can. And finally, as I said, so we will select indeed up to 34 signatories for the twinning program. So if you have any question, please feel free to ask them. Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks Thibaut. All right, Thibaut indeed is our lead. If you have any questions, please do note them down and we'll come to questions at the end. Thanks again, Thibaut. All right, we'll go on to the expert mission for municipalities. So myself and Eugenia, we lead on the expert mission for municipalities. And in this programme, expert cities and learner cities will come together to focus on ambitious long-term strategies for carbon neutrality before 2050 and adaptation strategies. So we're offering 10 municipalities the chance to work together for long-term strategies for moving towards carbon neutrality, and additionally 6 municipalities the chance to focus specifically on adaptation. Successful candidates could work together on activities such as learning how to co-create a climate pact with citizens and business, or develop a climate neutrality strategy, exploring how to create renewable energy communities, or focusing on strategies to pilot zero emission public transport, for example. Now, the programme involves preparatory discussions online ahead of, all being well, a physical visit in the expert city, and final assessment of learnings and their transferability online. Now, the whole learning process should take place between September 2022 and January 2023. So as you can see again here, it's meet online, defining the learning objectives, both for the learner city and also some learnings from the expert city. This is really a two-way learning process between the two. Then a physical visit in the expert city and assessing transferability assessment. Now I can share with you a brief overview of what some of our previous cities got up to in this programme. So last year, Sunderland, Victoria, Gasteiz and Parma were paired together to work specifically on creating partnerships with business and citizens in support of the city's aim of moving towards carbon neutrality. So Sunderland shared their 2030 shadow board and low carbon framework, which sets out commitments of partners, which include business, university, the health sector, youth representatives, NGOs and schools in working towards carbon neutrality. So Victoria and Gasteiz and Parma actually had the chance to join a virtual 2030 shadow board meeting to see firsthand how this partnership really worked. The cities also shared additionally on low carbon housing, green infrastructure, specifically on how green belts can help limit urban sprawl, and on mobility planning. They were all learning together, so experts and learners alike. I'd just like to give you one other example here. So Lati and Brighton and Hove were paired together. And this example was a little bit different. It still focused on long-term strategies, but one aspect specifically was on citizen engagement. So Lati shared their 1.5 degree lifestyle dialogue with citizens, which involves a calculation of volunteers' carbon footprint, and then an evaluation of supporting measures needed to help reduce these from the city's side. So part of Lati's, was part of Lati's broader communication strategy to engage citizens with a branded campaign, City of Makers, you may have heard, and they had a separate website with young people hired to promote content through social media channels. But additionally, the cities also shared on carbon neutral construction, so how to pair up business with the city and with researchers to really drive innovation, on climate assemblies, youth climate assemblies, and also on mobility as well. So the expert mission, it really is a great programme to work on longer term strategies, getting stakeholders on board. But that is it in a nutshell. So then I will hand over to Mariangela for the expert mission for coordinators and supporters.
Good afternoon, everyone. So this expert mission is open to territorial coordinators and energy agencies involved as covenant supporters. In total, the program will support 5 learners supported by 5 mentors, so 5 pairing. The main objective of this expert mission is to support regions in the development and implementation of long-term regional strategies. In this is the first priority of the program. However, on the basis of the last year experience, wherever the first priority does not fill all the seats available, the program will also support those applicants that intend to increase their municipalities' capacities to develop and implement local action plans. The program is divided in 4 steps. There is a preliminary online meeting meant to introduce the pairing and get to know each other. A second online meeting that will instead focus on the definition of the learning objectives and also on the identification of good practice that the mentor will transfer to the learner. Then, if COVID measures allow it, the third meeting will be a 2-day site visit where the learner hosts the mentor and the latter may meet policymakers or stakeholders on the basis of the learning plan. Of course, if it is not allowed, this meeting will have to be transformed online. Then, after the site visit, there will be a final online meeting to capitalize on what's learned and shared. Last year editions also had 5 pairings. All the learners were selected in view of the work on regional strategies. Here I briefly reported 3 examples. We had, for example, the Cabildo of Tenerife Covenant coordinator that joined the program to look for good practices on how to transform the highland into an econ highland. We also had the Piemonte region, another coordinator that joined the program looking for good practices to include in the regional strategies, and in particular, they focused on the development of energy communities in the territory. And then we also had the Mark region, another territorial coordinator, that decided to find good practices that could be included in the regional strategies for the support of the municipalities, and in particular for fostering their energy transition. This is all from my side, and of course, if you have questions, please ask.
Brilliant, thanks, Mariangela. Indeed, Mariangela is our lead then for the expert mission for coordinators and supporters. Please do, if you have any questions, do note them down. Again, we'll come back to those in a second. So for now, I'll move on to the peer review, and I can hand over here to Davide and Julie.
Thanks a lot, Heather. So this is Davide here. Last but not least, the peer review program. Compared to most of the other programs presented so far, this is a one-way learning program in which signatories at the very end process of their submission of action plans, of their SICAP, they can join the peer review and have their action plan reviewed by experts. That could be expert CT coordinators or supporters. This is very targeting municipalities which are close to submission, so it gravitates around the document. So you need to have your SICAP document ready. You will be asked to identify up to 4 specific review questions within your text, within your SICAP. Those questions will be passed on to the reviewers that will provide you with written feedbacks on the specific questions you have highlighted. It starts with an online meeting to agree on the review questions. Then there will be the time for reviewers to undertake the review. And there will be a final moment of confrontation on the results of the feedbacks. In case there's a need for reviewers to engage and contact municipalities throughout the review process, they will be allowed, of course, to do so. But it is really a program for trying to finalize your SICAP. We're targeting it once again, and it's never too much to remark it, to cities with a SICAP very close to submission or that has received already a feedback after being submitted to the covenant. So these are the 2 targets for the peer review. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks very much, David. All right, again, any questions, do note them down. Okay, so we're coming towards our final program overview. So I'll hand back over here then to Thibaut.
Yes, thanks, Heather. So indeed, finally, the technical assistance program, which is targeting specifically signatories with less than 50,000 inhabitants, and more specifically with a specific project or action included in their SICAP that would like to receive a specific support for. So we intend to gather up to 10 municipalities together during 6 months to develop project and action on climate and energy aspects. And signatories will actually be clustered according to their preferences, to topic preferences in small groups, allowing some exchanges and some informal feedback. What we will do is that there will be 3 day-long online workshops, including some presentation from expert cities and some exercises and some exercises and activities in small breakout groups. And here you can see the process with the 3 online webinars. The first one being on exploring participant needs and project scoping. So really exploring what are your challenges, your needs, and then moving on to the second webinar around the stakeholders engagement. So trying to map what all the essential stakeholders to involve as part of your project, and how you actually, and on some aspect related to business modeling. So we actually had some experts on that for the previous phase. So having this business model triangle, some key aspect to keep in mind when developing a project, and finally an exchange around funding and financing, and particularly with some follow-up opportunities for municipalities to move forward their project ID, because the idea is really to develop some projects and to move them forward and to get them financed at the end and to get them implemented. So we had the example of UCF as a follow-up opportunity. We had the example of Prospect Plus as well, in order to develop and innovate in terms of financing schemes. So this process will more or less take place during a six months period. We intend, as I said, to select 10 signatories as part of this program, and I wanted actually to remind you that as part of this technical assistance, we would like to select participants with very clear and specific projects, and we will actually only assess them if they are very clear and very specific, and we actually don't want to accept applications such as measures to decrease greenhouse gas emissions. Now in this program we actually intend to target very specific projects, and what we mean by specific projects, that the topic or the issues is actually already well defined, and that a thought has already been given on that project. And then on the next slide, you can find some example of the previous phase. So the different project concepts that have been developed as part of the first phase of the program. So we had 2 groups, one on energy renovation of buildings, and the other one on mobility. So large type of measures that have been developed. So 9 learner municipalities from 5 EU countries that developed actually each project concept. We had some expert cities as well, and I want actually to remind you that we're not only targeting learner municipalities as part of this program, but as well we encourage municipalities with project development expertise to apply, so they can have the opportunity to exchange with the other experts, with the other learners as well, and we will invite them to take part in one additional workshop at the end of the program with the other experts of the other programs. And maybe one final thing is that we actually encourage as well municipalities from rural areas to apply, and yeah, feel free to raise any question you may have. You saw that on the slide that we had actually some guest speakers as well, so not only experts from the program, but some guest experts on different fields: financing, business modeling, stakeholders engagement. So a wide array of expertise that were put into that program. So thanks a lot.
All right, thanks very much, Thibaut. Okay, that takes us to the end of our full program overview. I understand we've moved through that quite swiftly, so there might be some questions. Don't forget, though, that we will be sharing the presentations afterwards with all the information included within it as well. So don't worry about that. We can move on now then to any questions and answers. But before we do, I just wanted to pick up on a couple of points and just reiterate three things, I should say. Just to say that as applicants, you can apply to, or we encourage you to apply to one main programme, but that we give you an option then to select a second programme that you would like to be considered for. So do have a think about that. Another point was just to say that in terms of the timeline, broadly speaking, we're looking to, obviously the deadline is Friday, the 25th of March for applications. We're looking to evaluate then in April, May, and to be contacting those successful candidates by June, and then to kick off the programmes in September this year. And then just one final point, indeed, that for those visits that do, for those programmes that include a physical visit, indeed, should the circumstances necessitate, we will need to move those online. However, we're very hopeful that moving into later into this year, that actually we'll be able to push ahead with those physically. All right, I will stop sharing my screen so that we can all chat together. And indeed, this is the moment. If you have any questions, please do. You can raise your hand. You can pop them down in the chat box. We're here ready to respond to any questions that you might have. Okay, I can see. Indeed, so I can see we've got a question here in regards to the expert mission. So what are the benefits for participating as an expert city? Great question, indeed. The benefits, first of all, are that you would be promoted as such within the Covenant of Mayors community. So we will be producing a booklet with all of the exchanges once we finalise the peer programmes, and of course your case studies will be within there. We will also be promoting the outcomes of the programmes through articles and blog posts. So again, we will promote your case study there. That's obviously after the programme itself. During the programme, I'd like to stress that it's not just the learner cities that will be learning. We also encourage then continued learning from the expert cities side. So while the focus, of course, will be on a main learning from the learners side, we encourage to focus on one specific topic. We will also be holding a capitalisation session. So this is where we essentially capitalise on the fact that two cities are together and can learn from each other. And here we hold an open discussion to see from both cities what they would like to learn from each other, what they could potentially share between each other. As I say, and this is this can cover anything from mobility, from renewable energy communities, from green infrastructure. So we really do encourage continued learning between the cities, regardless of expert learner status. Okay, Thibaut, I can see that there's a question here coming in for you. So from Christina. So can a city with a population above 2,000 inhabitants apply to the twinning?
Definitely. There is no threshold in terms of size for the twinning. So any cities committed to the 2030 or 2050 can apply to the twinning.
Brilliant. All right, fantastic. I can see we've got another question coming here from Celia. So if we're beginning to prepare our CCAP, which programme would be the best for a municipality to apply to? All right, well, Davide and Thibaut, I think maybe it would be either the twinning or the peer programme. What would you say?
Okay, I shall start. I think for the, once again, for the peer review, what is very essential and what could make you benefit most out of the program is having your CCAP almost ready, like really drafted and described action by action, so then you can identify eventual, again, maximum 4 review questions, so things you would like to have some expert view checking on it before you submit, and then passing the documentation over to the reviewer, which normally is an entity that has extensive experience in SECAP preparation as a covenant coordinator, for example. So it has seen a lot of documentation like this, a lot of plans and drafts. So really, I would say if you have it and it is described and you have a text to work on, then the peer review would be the best. If you're still drafting actions on your action plan, you haven't put them down, described, written, financially, and in all these aspects technically, then probably other programs could also support.
Great, thanks, Davide. All right, Thibaut.
Yeah, I would actually support Davide's comments. In the training, we're actually looking for some so learning needs, and this is actually something that could actually fit within your SECAP design, whether you actually have some missing let's say points or missing sector you actually would like to address or reinforce some knowledge on specific topics. This could be actually would actually fit, yeah, to the training.
If I may add something, also from the experience I had in running few twinnings in the past years, twinnings also open up to the possibility of discussing the SECAP implementation in any of the forms. So once you have it already done, and maybe you are about to approach a few of the actions, some are already taken place and implemented. This is something the peer review will not do. Peer review it's on your documentation when you're about to submit it to the covenant. So twinning in that sense can be broader. It's not really to the question that we received now, but it's something probably worth it to clarify. There are programs that look into the implementation phase also, and programs that only look at the preparation phase, which is the peer review, for example.
Brilliant, great. Thanks for that clarification, David. All right, fantastic. I can see no more questions for now. Indeed, if you have any questions, do write them down or raise your hand if you'd like to speak out to us. One thing I can perhaps just continue on is this point on expert cities. Indeed, we of course encourage expert cities to apply to the relevant peer programs. I'd like to just say then also from the expert mission side, for expert cities, we'll also be looking to put together a workshop for all of the cities that are involved in the expert mission, so learners and experts, to really draw out some of the best practices that were shared there, so to continue the learning between experts specifically. And additionally to that, in all of our programs for our expert cities, we look to provide them with speaker roles in events, that we are involved in. So of course we keep a note of the expert cities that we have involved in the peer program and put them forward for speaker roles where we get asked. All right, I'm just going back through. I can see no more questions for now. All right, if anybody does have any more questions, please do feel free to jump out. Otherwise, I can take us back through just a couple of the main points, maybe at the beginning in terms of general application.
There is a question.
Sorry, great, fantastic. Okay, sorry, from Victor, fantastic. So we are 1,200 inhabitants, small rural council in Galicia, dealing with a program about changing waste management. Is this covered in any of the programs? Indeed, that's a great question. We plan door-to-door systems in small electric vehicles. All right, fantastic. Well, first of all, going from a small municipality, I just say that we greatly encourage small and rural municipalities to apply. Again, I think here I can see towards the twinning program and even potentially the technical assistance program. This potentially could be of relevance. Again, Thibaut, I don't know if you'd like to jump in here.
Yeah, indeed, the different opportunities. The technical assistance is rather supporting municipalities to develop indeed a specific project, and we actually tend to regroup some topics in small groups, so as we did actually in the first phase, where we had the mobility group and the building renovation group. And it might be the case where in the second phase we would end up with different topics depending on the application we receive. And then for the twinning, there is indeed there is the waste management is actually a topic that is listed as a topic of the twinning. So if this is something you actually would like to exchange with another cities that already implemented some measures on that particular topic, why not? Depending on the interest actually you have, if this is something you would like to develop further and get why not funding, or if it is rather a broader exchange with another city, depending, yes, on the interest you have. Mm-hmm. But both programs could be a fit.
Yeah, so I see Victor's said that they are in the planning process. Indeed, I think the twinning sounds like the most appropriate. Again, here we would just suggest then to be quite clear in your application. So when the application form will ask for a specific learning need, again, just to pop this down quite clearly as to what is exactly it is you would like to focus on. I hope that answers your question, Victor. Do let us know. All right, I can see no more questions for now. What I would just say then is, again, we'll be sharing the presentation which has all of the information within it. And we can also put down some of these questions and answers that we've had today into an email, so everyone has access to those. All right, I can see you. Please do let us know if you have any more questions. Colleagues, is there anything additional that you would like to add around your programs? No, okay, for now. Okay, I would just remind everyone of, indeed, of the timeline. Again, deadline, of course, is 25th of March. Again, just a couple of points. Please do apply in English. And just in generic highlighting points, as we said a few times, the most important for us is that within your application form, you provide us with some reasonably concrete details in terms of your learning needs. That really helps us in terms of understanding how we can help you and in matching you to an appropriate partner within the programs. So please do try to be as concrete and as concise as you can in your application form. Again, just to bear in mind, we ask you to apply to one specific program, but then you do have an option to select a second program that you would like to be considered for, should the first be unavailable. And then just finally on the timeline, we will be evaluating the application forms in April and May, and then we'll be in touch with those successful candidates in June and kickstarting everything in September. Okay, if there are no final questions, what I would suggest is that we can wrap up. We'll be sharing this presentation. I'll share the links then to the application form itself and indeed to the selection criteria, so you'll have all of the information ready to apply. Should you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. I'm just going to reshare my screen because I've got the specific contacts for colleagues here. So for each program, you can of course reach out to me directly. But you can also reach out then to the specific colleagues here, so you can see the context there. And again, I'll share that with you all afterwards. All right. Thank you very, very much for joining, and we hope to hear from you soon.